Hello everyone, this is the substitution and income effects of a price change on a consumer's preferences. So a couple of things. This is a public finance class. My name is Dr. Garrick. I am your economics professor. So this is chapter 2, part 5. Because it's part 5, that means there has been 4 other parts. You may want to go back and catch those parts before, but I think you can get the idea of income and substitution effects without having to watch them first. But I'll tell you exactly when you need to watch those parts. Without further ado, I want to get started. But before that, I always say this at the end of videos, but I'm going to say it again. Subscribe it if you haven't done so to this channel. Number 2, hit the like button. When you hit the like button, do you know what happens? There's like stars and glitter and just like pew, explosion happens. I love it, like colorful stars and glitter explodes on the screen or like a little bit. What it does is, other than making me happy, what it does is the YouTube will then push this video in the eyeballs of in front of the students who are struggling with economics, who are failing or trying to get a better grade or trying to get an A in a class, in a public finance class. So do that and you will help other students. Good karma, good karma. All right, so we are still in the utility maximization portion of the theoretical tools of public finance, chapter 2. And let's get started. So consider a typical price change in our framework. If you remember our framework, we had, I'm going to do it right here a little bit. Okay. So we were consuming movies and cakes. Okay. So we had an income of $30 and we had a price of movies was $10 and price of cakes was $10 as well. Yes. So then we learned about, so this is my budget line then. Okay. So this intercept is Y over PM. So that's your whole income divided by price of movies. That's the maximum number of movies you can consume. 3 movies you can consume if you put all your income to movies. Y over price of cakes. This is the number of cakes. 30 divided by 10. 3 cakes you can consume if you actually put all your money on cake consumption. Slope of this guy is -1. So this is the crushing reality we said in previous part. Right, this is your budget constraint or budget line. So this is supposed to be 1. Okay, my drawing is really bad. Thank goodness I am not an art major. Okay, so we have, this is the crushing reality. These are my indifference curves. Indifference curves are convex to the origin. Lots of indifference curves. I'm trying to go to the highest indifference curve possible because my utility or happiness goes up as I consume more of both. Okay, cakes and movies. All right, I'm just trying to do something. Highlighter. Okay, so there's one indifference curve that is barely touching here. So I'm going to get rid of this one. Again, my drawing is not the best, but it's pretty decent, folks. It's pretty decent. All right, so this indifference curve is tangent. So this is the optimal point. Because I'm achieving the highest possible indifference curve with the given budget constraint. Okay. All right. So this was our situation. Consider the typical price change in this framework, right? You're consuming some cakes and some movies initially. So you consider a typical price change. I'm going to get rid of everything. All right. So increase in the price of movies. Price of movies goes up from $10 to $30. Ouch, it's a little expensive. So your budget line becomes different, right? Your budget line used to be Y equals. So I'm going to write down the general budget line. This happens to us. Remember when I try to sometimes draw a straight line? If I draw it so slowly, it becomes like Freddy Krueger, Nightmare from the Elm Street, classic scary movie. It happened again. So I'm going to fix that because I can't stand Freddy Krueger styled letters. It's almost like Freddy Krueger is interfering with our class. Don't sleep. Okay, so this is expenditure on movies, expenditure on cakes. It has to be equal to income. So initial budget line was 30 equals 10 QM plus 10 QC. quantity of cakes. Okay, now imagine the price of movies go up from 10 to 30. Ouch. So 30 equals to 30 QM. If I spend all my money to movies, I'm gonna be able to afford fewer than 3 movies now. This rotates the budget constraint inward along the x-axis. Let's take a look. So this was the initial case, right? 30 divided by 10, 3 cakes maximum if I spend all my money on cakes. 30 divided by 10 was again 3 movies if I spent all my money on movies. This was the initial optimal point. All right, almost like little less than 1 movie, little more than 1.5 cake. Okay, so again, it's like we're not consuming full numbers, but that's fine. All right, so what happens is that price of movies increasing. Price of movies increasing, right? So what happens to this? This guy, this intercept doesn't change because this is y divided by price of cakes. My income didn't change, price of cakes didn't change, that's fine. Here, I know the formula for intercept is y divided by price of movies. So y is 30, Freddy Krueger strikes again, divided by price of movies, now 30. Okay, so this is going to change here. This intercept will come down here. This is not going to change, so we are going to just connect those points. Increase in price of movies rotates the budget line inward. Now you can afford less. Your budget set became smaller. Okay? So Andrea is worse off and consumes less movies. Okay? So any price change has 2 effects. I want you to remember this. Okay, so this is definitely less movies, right? So this is right here. So many movies before. Now she has fewer movies. Okay. Any price change has substitution and income effects. Substitution effect works like this. So easy. Okay. Change in consumption. It happens when change in consumption due to a change in relative prices of goods, holding utility constant. Okay. So idea in the substitution effect is that run away from the good that is relatively more expensive, consume more of the good that's relatively less expensive. So movies got $30 back in the day, right? 10 each. Relative price was 1. Now movies is 3 times as more expensive, as much expensive as cakes. So movies got relatively more expensive, cakes are relatively cheaper. So I am going to say price of movies increases. Okay, movies are relatively more expensive. You're going to consume less. Which one, movies or cakes? Movies. Run away from the thing that's relatively more expensive and consume more of thing that's relatively cheaper. Now cakes, you can actually, instead of going to 1 movie, you can consume 3 cakes. Before the exchange rate was 1-1. Okay, so I'm going to consume more cakes then. Income effect is different. So this is like price of movies is increasing. There are 2 angels on your, shoulders. Substitution effect says consume less movies because they're relatively more expensive. And also consume more of the thing that's relatively less expensive. Okay, income effect. Change in the consumption due to feeling poorer or richer. Price of movies went up. This happened to us when the gasoline prices went up, right? We feel poorer because it takes more money to fill up the tank and gas tank. Gas price go up. Gas tank is more expensive to fill up. Then we need to cut down on something else. Same idea. Change in consumption due to, in this case, feeling poorer after the price increase. Price of good increases, any good, you're going to feel poorer and consume less of everything. So if the price of movies increased, income effect is going to tell you, consume less of everything because you are poor now. Consume not only fewer movies, but also fewer cakes. So price of movies go up, substitution and income effects both tell you to consume less movies, fewer movies, watch fewer movies. However, substitution effect will say consume more cakes, while the income effect says consume fewer cakes. Okay, so they are showing opposite ways, opposite directions. So let's illustrate the income and substitution effects. Look, initially you're in point A. This is what we started with. We're at point A. We move to point B. Okay, A to B, let's say. So for sure, price of movies went up. What happened? This budget line shifted inside around, it was pivoted around the y-axis, right? It stayed on the same spot on the y-axis, but shifted inward along the x-axis, okay? So then we are going to see price of movies go up. Income effect will and substitution effect will say consume fewer movies for sure, okay? If income is dominant, I'm gonna just put dummy. If income effect is dominant, I feel poorer, then I'm going to consume. Income effect dominates substitution effect, in other words, then I'm going to also reduce my cake consumption. If substitution effect is dominant, that means these effects are happening at the same time. Don't forget that. If substitution effect is dominant, price of movies went up. Cakes are relatively cheaper now. Therefore, I need to increase my cake consumption. It looks like here, look, cake consumption was here at first. It looks like it went up, so you can say that substitution dominated income effect, okay? But both income and substitution effects will say consume fewer movies, which we did, look, from here to here, okay? So let's decompose, let's learn about decomposing these effects. So a movement along this initial indifference curve, okay, is the substitution effect. How did we do this? Just go to the final. So A, initial equilibrium, optimal point B. Okay. So grab the slope of this optimal point. Find a ghost budget line. This blue one is the ghost budget line that's parallel, the same slope, touching the initial indifference curve 1. Okay, I see too. So A2, let's call this R. A to R will be the pure substitution effect. As you can see, A to R, you see cake quantities going up for sure. And movies went down, substitution effect. From R to B is the pure income. So we are decomposing substitution and income effects. A to R. How did we find R? Find a ghost budget line that has the same slope of the new budget line, parallel to the new one, touching the original indifference curve. Move this guy here. Okay, so what's the income effect? R to B is the income effect. If you look at R to B, I'm going to erase some stuff. It's gotten too crowded. If you go from R to B, right, you will see this is the income effect. I apologize. R to B is the income effect. You see the Q cake quantity went down this much. This was the initial increase in cakes. And then at the same time, it further tells you, oh, consume fewer movies, okay? R to B, right? Movie change. So, movement from one indifference curve to the other is the income effect, R to B, point R to B, okay? So, let's see this a little bit clearly. I'm trying to erase everything. Okay, So decline in QM is due to substitution effect, this initial one. And this is due to income effect. I will start with cash welfare programs in next part. We're going to talk about temporary assistance for needy families 10th program in the next part, and I'll see you there. Bye.